Hello, and welcome to the Embrace the Darkness podcast, where we explore the night skies, nature and nocturnal calm that you can find in the South Downs International Dark Sky Reserve. I'm Elinor, your host for the show and the Queen of Darkness. I organise the South Downs National Park's annual Dark Skies Festival, and through this podcast I will be introducing you to some of the people that I've met through my work, each with their own unique relationship with the night sky. So, get comfy, wrap up warm, and come on a journey with me as we embrace the darkness. So, hello everybody, and welcome to the Embrace the Darkness podcast. And I'm here today with David Atthowe from Reveal Nature. And David, you are a biofluorescent expert, is one of the ways I'm describing you. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Excited to see where we're going to go and what we're going to explore.
Yeah. I'm like, it'll be a good chat, this. So thanks so much for doing the podcast. And I'd like to begin with asking my guests to tell us about an experience you've had in the dark, under dark skies. Anything that's particularly memorable for you.
Wow. Okay. So I should give context. I pretty much live my life in the darkness. So for the last 3 years, I've spent roughly 6 hours a night, every night, exploring in different parts of the world, the wonderful world of biofluorescence. So to give one story is very, very challenging, but I'll keep it local. I'll go with something in the UK. So I'm going to say the first time I ever saw a hedgehog.
Oh.
So I'm walking through the forest. And at this point, I didn't have any knowledge about what was going to happen. Shining my UV torch around, I'm exploring, and I come across this hedgehog, and it lights up Barbie pink.
Oh, wow.
And it's such a bizarre sight to see a hedgehog glowing pink in the darkness.
That's incredible. So they go pink. Who knew? Yeah, fantastic. So yeah, what did you think? I mean, what was your reaction?
Unfortunately, I had a bit of context. Whilst I didn't know they were going to glow pink, I did know some mammals glow pink, and I did know why. And in a way, I wished I had no knowledge, because just how mind-blowing would it be to not have that understanding and have pure mystery.
This incredible pink creature appears in the night. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but just to be honest, just pure awe and wonder, just seeing, but also this fantastic sense of curiosity, I guess, as well. And it wasn't so much the curiosity of why, but more the curiosity of what else. If hedgehogs are glowing pink, what else is out there that's giving off this fantastic color show that we've never seen?
Amazing. So perhaps now is the time to discuss, what is biofluorescence? Tell us about what that is.
Yeah, sure. So let's start at the beginning. First of all, let's say what it's not.
Okay.
So it's not bioluminescence.
Okay.
Because it's going to get confused. So bioluminescence is light generated by the organism itself. So something which makes its own light. Here in the UK, it's mainly phytoplankton and glowworms.
Okay.
They're both quite rare and things you have to go looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Biofluorescence, on the other hand, is super abundant. We are surrounded by it all the time. We just can't normally see it. So the technical definition, we shine a shorter wavelength of light on a subject and it re-emits back in a longer wavelength, which we can then see. Or in simpler terms, we're using either blue or ultraviolet light and shining it on the subject, whatever it might be, and that then comes back in a different color that we can then see.
Okay, so that's interesting. So what sort of things biofluoresce? What animals, what plants?
So it can be found in every single kingdom of life.
Oh.
So plants, fungi, mammals, amphibians, reptiles, birds, plants, bacteria, you get the picture. It's quite literally every order of life. And it can be found in some of life's most basic processes, such as photosynthesis, or the storage and movement of energy between cells naturally produces fluorescence. So it is something that really is all around us, and wherever you go in the world as well. And there's some stunning examples here in the UK as well.
So you go out on a night walk with a UV torch, you said, and
that's right. Yeah. And then you're away. Common things you can find around here, all sorts. So slugs, snails, earthworms, wood lice, lichens, liverworts, mosses, plants, fungi. They've all got their own fluorescent stories.
That's very exciting. So, do we know anything about why creatures do this? Oh, yeah, it's kind of, yeah, seems odd.
It's a fantastic question to ask. I think a few points to go with that. First of all, our understanding is absolutely in its infancy, and there are way more questions than there are answers as to what's going on. To give you a bit of context, the largest comparative study on biofluorescence had a subject size of less than 1,000 organisms out of an estimated 8.67 million on the planet,
Yeah.
which means we currently scientifically know about the glow of 0.001% of species. So 99.99% remains unknown. And that's just in the most basic level of observation before we even start to consider anything, deeper than that. And given how widespread it is, I think the default position whenever you see it is to think that it's a byproduct of chemistry rather than it's always inherently going to be functional, because a lot of the time it can just be a byproduct of chemistry. But having said that, it can also function as UV protection. It can also function as an antioxidant. And there is a growing body of evidence to suggest that it might, in some cases, function as a form of communication in the natural world as well.
Oh, interesting.
Playing a role in predator-prey relationships, camouflage, territorial displays, and mating as well.
Yeah, so basically we don't know, but we've got some interesting ideas, and it's something to do with the biochemistry of life, but there might be more to it. And there's
Yeah,
evidence that there might be
absolutely.
more
I
to it.
mean, one of the great challenges is proving a function for something.
Yes, yeah,
From a scientific perspective, hypothetically, observations, great. I could go on for hours about all the strange observations I've made and seen and things that seem to be pointing towards something. But scientifically, that's obviously not the way we want to approach it. So it's proving that function is really difficult. There's a group of scientists who have come up with 7 points, which really kind of nail that down. But one of the biggest ones on the 7-point checklist that's really hard is a behavioral response. It's really hard to do the test. It's really hard because essentially you have to find a way to shut off that fluorescence without affecting anything else and then prove it's just that's affected the result. And what's the result going to be when you take away the fluorescence that proves there's a behavioral change? So without getting too technical, it gets very difficult to prove that.
So yeah, science. Tricky. Yeah, well, it's so interesting. So you've been all over the world looking for biofluorescence. What have you seen when you've been out in various different places?
Wow. I mean, I'm really, really lucky. I've been blessed to get the opportunity to write the first book about it. So the last year I've been visiting researchers and universities around the world, learning lots of the science. But for me personally, the thing that really captivates me is the magic of it and the awe and the wonder at seeing this world of color and this idea there's an entire dimension of reality that most of us have never even seen. And it really does help that it's really glowy, it shines, it shimmers, and it's the most saturated version of nature you will ever see. The colors are just incredible, so rich and so deep. And that inevitably, it's kind of like the ultimate salient signal. It's like the best way, if you wanted to capture a human being's attention, it's like a formula for capturing our attention and drawing us in. So I'm going to be off topic there, but I'm coming back to your question of the best things that I've seen around the world. I mean, it's really hard. Every single habitat has something special within it,
Yeah.
So you've got all sorts going on coral reefs, you've got rock pools. But I think the ones that are closest to my heart is the temperate rainforest and the cloud forest. Because what's within them, the bryophytes, so the mosses, the liverworts, the lichens, the ferns, so the things living on things, they are absolute fluorescent superstars. 4 or 5 years ago when I started doing this, I had no real knowledge of those particular parts of the natural world, but they've become my obsession, I guess you could say. And the reason being, they come in every color.
Oh,
They're
wow.
so vibrant. And when you put them all together in those two habitats, you've literally got a rainbow forest of every color you can think of.
That does sound magical. So these are plants that live on other plants or other substructures, trees and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, look, liverworts are the ones I get most excited about. And I think they've got such a bad rep. Whoever named them a liverwort, it's such a sad story. I mean, historically, it's because they were thought to, be beneficial to the liver medicinally. But it does them such an injustice because they are just stunning. And again, they just come in every single color. We've got places in the UK where you've got walls of liverworts, and the whole wall is yellow, blue, pink, purple, green, in its most intense, vibrant form, shining out of you at the dark. It's just, yeah, it's really, really incredible.
That does
Um,
sound incredible. Yeah.
and really important as well. The first plants, sorry, after algae to make the leap to land. So the first sort of land plants about 470 million years ago were liverworts. And still, despite that, their importance, there's so many questions that remain unknown with them as well. They've also been very overlooked. They have a structure called an oil body, which is not found in any other plant. And we don't fully understand what it does, but it gives them some very interesting smells, and it may well play a part in their fluorescence story as well.
Oh, interesting. Because we have, I think, if I remember a course that I did on bryophytes, we've got something like 400 species of liverwort in this country, something like that, isn't it? So it's incredible the range of species of these plants. And it's so interesting that what you're saying is that they glow different colors. So it's like, where does that different color come from? I mean, I know species are different, but to have such a different color to produce a rainbow, that just sounds absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, and I think, a lot of this still remains unknown. I mean, each element of the natural world has its own fluorescent story,
Yeah.
and most of them end in a mystery. Very few of them end in an answer, which I think is one of the reasons why I'm so enthralled. I love a mystery, often more than I love an answer, if I'm honest. Answers are great, but they're a full stop, whereas a mystery is the beginning and the curiosity and the wonder and the exploration. And I think that's where I really thrive myself. But yeah, liverworts, they are really, really magical, really, really magical. And I think that it's likely that a part of their fluorescent story is to do with chemistry.
Mm.
And, liverworts, lichens, fungi, plants in general, things that can't move, they often produce a lot of interesting chemicals to compensate for the fact they can't go anywhere. And that then is sort of reflected in their fluorescence. Not getting too deep here, but you can read a lot about the chemistry of the world around you based on how it sort of glows back at you.
So it's almost like looking at the world rather than from a human point of view or an animal point of view where we can move around. Actually, there are other ways of moving through reality, if you like, which involve chemicals, and it's just a different way of life, which is, that sounds really fascinating and exciting and ooh, lots to explore and yeah. Fantastic. So, what made you pick up a UV torch in the first place, and head out into the woodlands and habitats?
Yeah, good question. It kind of all started for me watching a TED talk. So it was a TED
Okay.
talk on YouTube, and it was all about praying mantises.
Oh,
And at the end of the talk, they really casually mentioned, and we went in the Amazon with a UV torch, and everything lights up at night. And they put 10 pictures up, and I just thought, I want some of that. What's that? I had no knowledge about what it was, the name, or anything else. It's complete start from zero. And I just bought a torch, the wrong torch, ended up buying more torches, playing around. I was living in Indonesia at the time. And yeah, it just kind of went from there. I mean, that first night walk, I'll never forget, walking out into sort of my back garden, shining the torch on things and not really knowing, would I find anything? Would there be anything that would glow? And what would there be? And then all of a sudden, just finding everything from spiders to chilies. And the one that really got me was this little millipede, and it was crawling up a tree bark, and it was incredible sky blue. And it was
oh,
such a bright sky blue. And that's always been my favorite color, like a nice sunny day.
yeah.
And it was like the sunshine was shining back at me in the middle of the night. And yeah, I went home that night, and all I could think is like, this is a gift of magic. Like, what are you going to do with it? I think there's only one thing you can ever do when you give a magic, and that's to share it.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. So it's almost like Harry Potter, eat your heart out. I've got a UV torch. Thanks very much.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
absolutely.
So then you wanted to share that with other people. So you've built a bit of a business and a education around doing these walks and getting
Yeah,
people outdoors.
sorry. Yeah, no, yeah. I've had the pleasure of leading a good few thousand people through, guided biofluorescent experiences by this point. To me, it's all about the awe and the wonder, really. It's about getting people out there and showing this dimension of color, and seeing the reaction is just, fantastic. And it really is like a formula to create moments of awe, which I think is a really underrated emotion as well. It's such a powerful force. I can't think of many other things that can permanently create a shift in your consciousness or the way you see the world. It's such a powerful perspective shift. But yeah, for me, it's all about getting people out there and sharing it with them in all sorts of facets. So there's guided walks, training programs over guides. I'm a keen photographer, so I do photography courses, and getting people out as well and experiencing that, and then of course sharing the visuals with sharing the photography, and then the book as well. But it's just about opening the possibility, to think there's this other dimension around us that most of us have never seen. It never gets old.
So it's almost I think because the dark skies work all started with astronomy groups, and there's obviously been a lot of work done on getting outside under the stars and seeing the Milky Way and all that kind of stuff, and that's great. But obviously, particularly in the UK, she says, looking out the window at the murky, cloudy, rainy skies, this is something that doesn't depend on weather too much. And I think we were talking earlier that in the rain it can be quite interesting to go out with a UV torch and look at some biofluorescence.
Yeah, absolutely. I might be a bit biased here. I was brought up with a granddad who told me that you're not made of sugar, you're not going to melt, so out you go. But yeah, no, absolutely, it's not something that's hindered by the weather. As long as it's safe to go out, you're good to go. And the rain really does bring things out that you wouldn't see otherwise. There's a lot of interesting fluorescence in slugs, in snails, in different types of worms. And there's so much you can learn. Again, that combination of us rarely being out in the night, and then even rarer being out in a wet night, means that you start seeing things that are just a bit unknown, and I mean it might be unknown to you even, but it's opening those possibilities and those discoveries. But yeah, lots of things that have interesting fluorescent stories, they'll only be out after the rain, which is great. It's now raining. I'll be walking in leading some walks in Cornwall tonight, and I'm sure we'll benefit from this wonderful rain.
So that's great. That's great for, if we're trying to encourage people to get out in the darkness, then it doesn't have to be sunny or not sunny, starry skies. And a bit of rain is actually quite beneficial, which is great news, I think.
Yeah, and it opens up more possibilities, because lots of the experiences in nature are quite weather or habitat or season dependent, whereas this is something which is much broader in its scope. So it offers up a lot of possibilities for how to get out at any point.
Yeah, encouraging people to get outdoors and all the well-being, because I think you talk on your website about sort of some of the well-being aspects of that, and certainly the awe and wonder is an important sort of mental health thing apart from anything else. So
and I think rediscovering the magic of nature, because when we're children, it's inherent, it's just there. It just you see children out in nature and it's just flowing through them, that sense of wonder and curiosity. Everything is a source of wonder. For most of us, that gets sort of beating out of us by society and the world around us as we get older. There's a rare few who manage to hold on. But to rediscover that is just such a fantastic gift, and I think that biofluorescence is amazing for creating those moments. I see it all the time. It doesn't matter the age of the participants. You can have people in their 80s or 90s coming along a walk, and the moment they turn that torch on, this little inner child just explodes out of them, which is just fantastic to see.
Yeah, fantastic. We're celebrating our 10 years of being an international dark sky reserve, and a lot of that work is around light pollution. What have you noticed about light pollution and biofluorescence? I mean, presumably you do need to be in a relatively dark place in order to be able to see the biofluorescence.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's definitely a factor in the work that I do. I mean, it is a bit more adaptable than some things, but you need darkness, but based on the way our eyes perceive the world, we need darkness to be able to see it, basically. And it is having impacts, but again, with so little science out there specifically on biofluorescence, the only way we can sort of draw conclusions is by sort of jumping along a little bit So, there's a story of fluorescence in scorpions, and it would appear that any form of light pollution would seriously negatively impact them specifically. But there's no study sort of working on it. But I think in the broader picture, it's something which is really important. It's something which, very much features in all the work that I do, because the nature of the UV light, it's a small, narrow torch beam. So the only lights on my walks are the UV light and a red headlight if people need it to move around. There's no white light involved. So your night vision builds up throughout the walk. And what often happens, depending on the site, you get back to the car park and they've gotten those hideous security lights. Yeah. You've had this wonderful walk where you've built up your night vision, then it's like, bam, and it really punches you and hits home. And I think that's a really poignant moment that I love to draw into the group to just make people aware, because I think a lot of the stuff around light pollution, if we're not careful, it can be intangible. Yeah. How does it relate to me and my world? But when you have that experience of here's me, what I can see in the night, and then bam, now it's all gone, I think it makes it really tangible.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. Yeah. And it's something important about, yes, like you say, experiencing that yourself. You can talk about color temperature and lumens and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, actually experiencing the brightness of those car park lights or security lights. And oh, yeah, you can really connect perhaps with the experience of other organisms that might be trying to live in the darkness. And humans as well. We do need that contrast between the daylight and the darkness in order for our cells to behave themselves and live.
Absolutely. I mean, it's fundamental to all life, isn't it? I mean, even you go back really philosophically as well, it's out of the darkness that light is born. It's not the other way around. The darkness is like pregnant with possibility. It's where everything comes from, yet we just wipe it out as if it's, irrelevant. But it's as essential to us as it is to every aspect of the natural world.
Yeah. I was at a talk last week, and one of the people there was saying about how he felt that the cosmos and losing that darkness dulls our human imagination, which I think, you could argue with. We're talking about biofluorescence here and the magic and awe and wonder of that. I don't know. Would you say that encourages the human imagination as well?
Massively, massively. I think this idea that anything which blows your mind. So if you have a concept of reality, which we all do, and then something comes along and completely throws it, which is foundational to the experience of awe often. I think anything that does that is fantastic. I think there are things that we need to seek out, because that's what opens us up, isn't it? It opens us up to new possibilities. And inevitably it feeds into your imagination. When I'm on a night walk, people start coming along. Well, what does this do? Does this glow? What about this animal? And what about this? And, you can see that process ticking in people's brains.
So sort of an element of exploration and curiosity and play, and just, like you say, that inner child exploding outwards. And that sounds amazing. Yeah, brilliant. If someone wanted to go out with a UV torch and do this themselves, what might you recommend? I mean, obviously you do your guided walks, but you can't be everywhere at once. And we're going to be doing a couple with you this year. So yeah, really looking forward to that. But yes, if someone can't make it along to something like that, what would you recommend?
Sure. So, I mean, the simplest thing to do is to get yourself a UV torch and to just start exploring your own back garden. Start somewhere that's really close, which is a safe environment. And gardens are full of biofluorescence. They are really, really interesting habitats. So yeah, get yourself a UV torch, get yourself a pair of safety glasses so you can block out the UV light coming into your eyes. And then just begin exploring and see what you can discover. I mean, like I say, gardens are full of common garden snails are incredibly fluorescent. They're like a yellow hive is crawling through the ground. Lots of garden slugs glow. Like I said earlier, earthworms, wood lice. And then, of course, gardens, you've got this conglomeration of unusual flowers and plants, which, again, all full of fluorescence. I mean, even in your own back garden, you could follow the seasons and you'd always have things to go and see and explore.
So yes, start in your back garden and go and have a look and discover. Fantastic. So yeah, we were talking earlier about your name, which is written Atthowe, but it's pronounced Atthowe. And yeah, this was something else that we were talking about in terms of discovering things. Where does your name come from?
So it's a part of the Norfolk dialect, which is where I was originally born. And it means the top of a hill. And we were talking earlier, weren't we, about this idea of it's such a shame we've lost regional dialects, and the richness and the connection to the land and the landscape and the depth that they provide is something that's really missing. And we were discussing some comical bits of nature. And I've got one to add for you, actually. So a ladybird back in Norfolk is a bushy Barnaby.
A
Bushy Barnaby.
bushy Barnaby. That's fantastic. Yes, because we have a Dumbledore, which is a bumblebee in Sussex, which I do think is a great word. And we've got so many words for mud, kludgy and globber, and it's so yeah. So regional dialects, it's almost again, it's like with the biofluorescent wildlife, you just never know what you're going to find in these words, and the ecosystem of our dialects are sort of equally important in a way, really.
Absolutely. I think the big thing for me is the connection to the land,
Mm,
because, they were built up over time and they were all built in historical connections, some of which sadly we've lost. And also some of the wildlife, sadly, we've lost as well. It's a bit like old place names, isn't it? When you
mm,
start looking at old village names, it often tells you a story of what was once there. And that's, I think, the sad thing for me about dialect is it's something we've watched happen in our lifetimes.
mm.
I mean, I can only really talk about Norfolk because it's where I spent, my childhood growing up. But I watched that process happen. My grandparents, that was their day-to-day language. My parents understood it, didn't speak it. Lots of my generation don't understand it. And even when I've done a couple of projects around trying to revive it, and it's sadly, I wouldn't say it's dead because it's still there, but it's so rare now. You're talking really specific farmers and spots of the countryside in comparison what it would have been just 2 generations ago, a normal everyday language. I think, yeah, it's something we've really lost.
So yeah, I'm just really struck by this idea of going out and exploring language as much as you go out and you explore your garden at night. There does feel like there's quite a connection there, which is just it's just really interesting. And like you say, these wonderful, wonderful words for some of this wildlife, bushy Barnaby and Dumbledore, and you're collecting regional names for woodlice.
Yeah.
Have you got any of those you can share?
Oh, wow. It's interesting. A lot of them seem to use the word of pig. So there's definitely a sort of I think it's a physical, I don't know. I'm just guessing here what that connection might be. So in Norfolk, they used to be called shoe pigs. I was down in Gloucestershire a few days ago and they called them chugger pigs. But I think everywhere in the country seems to have a slightly a different name for them. And it's just really interesting, isn't it? I think you had one you shared earlier as well,
There
didn't
was
you?
something to do with cheese. I might be a cheesy pig or cheese roll or something like that. Yeah, I'm not sure where the cheese bit comes from, but certainly not what I first think of when I see a woodlouse. But yeah, yeah.
Creatures, though, they're brilliant biofluorescence. I get very excited about woodlice. I think because they're creatures of the night as well. So, whenever you're out at night, you come across them in large numbers. But I always love this fact that they've got a pouch on their bellies, a bit like a kangaroo, where
Oh,
they keep their babies, and they can hold up to like between 20 to 50 babies in this tiny little pouch on their belly. And whenever you look at them, you think about it, you think like, oh, where are they all? Like where are they hiding? They must be so small.
gosh, yeah. I mean, yeah, the magic of nocturnal wildlife and discovering these things is just, yeah, it's so exciting, and your enthusiasm's really infectious. So that's fantastic. Thank you so much. Yeah, is there anything else that you want to tell us about with biofluorescence and your experiences at night? Because we've been through the science, we've been through the exploration and the magic of it, and we've touched on those a bit. You've obviously been, like you say, around the world. You're writing or have written a book. When does that come out? When can we get
So
our hands on it?
Hey, so I'm currently writing the first book on biofluorescence, or popular science book about it, which will be out in February 2027
Brilliant.
by Hodder Press, all being well,
Yeah.
uh, which is very exciting. And that's been an amazing journey of learning and discovering. And also it was kind of the idea of presenting the subject from a broadest perspective. So not getting caught into any one element. So it's got science, it's got philosophy, it's got art, it's got beauty, it's got human emotion, human impact, psychology. So it's quite broad, because to me, it's what the subject represents. It's like a portal of a way into the world. It's another dimension, and you can approach that dimension from so many different angles.
God, yeah, that sounds like my kind of book. I'm definitely look forward to reading that. And you have a website where people can find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So Reveal Nature UK, all socials, and the website's the same as well, .co.uk.
And like you say, you do guided walks and we will be doing some with you in South Downs National Park. And you do guided walks around the UK. So do you put those on your website or?
Yeah, so yeah, if anyone wants to find out any more, then yeah, just go on the website. There's an events page. Got 2026 events will then hopefully be live. But yeah, all around Cornwall all the way up to Scotland, and everywhere in between. I mean, I do spend a lot more time on the west side of the country because I have a real focus on the temperate rainforest. But that's not exclusive. I do also do stuff sort of back home, Norfolk and Suffolk, and the odd event here or there in other parts of the country as well.
Yeah, and you also do photography and microscopy walks and stuff as well, don't you? It's not just biofluorescence.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I do some little bits of forest bathing. But I mean, the idea of Reveal Nature is to open up the unseen sides of the natural world. So it's just different ways we can tap into our senses to experience things we don't normally. So, I mean, the microscopic marvels is finding ways that we can kind of zoom in and change our scale and our perspective, and then open up the miniature world. But again, very experiential, because to me, I don't want to be telling people facts and talking to them. I want them to feel it and experience it for themselves. And I think that's where the real magic of nature is, because, as a guide, ultimately your only role is to create the space to let nature work its magic. In a way, you're only an obstacle as a human. It's nature where all the magic happens.
Amazing, really exciting work, and look forward to meeting you in person and getting to do some of this stuff together. That would be fantastic. Thank you so much, David, for coming and talking to us about your work and about the magical world of biofluorescence and beyond. And look forward to meeting you soon.
Yeah, thank you very much. I look forward to coming to discover what biofluorescent magic we can find in the South Downs.
I hope you've enjoyed this episode and perhaps learned something new. If you did, you can leave a comment or tag us on Instagram at SouthDownsNP. If you're listening on YouTube, give us a thumbs up, or on Spotify and Apple, consider giving us a 5-star rating to show others you enjoyed it. I will see all you wonderful listeners, or hear all you wonderful listeners, on our next episode. Thank you very much.